Robbie Lawler was out of control.
This is Double Cross, the murder of Robbie Lawler.
It was going to be an all-out war with him in the middle of it.
Crime World special investigation podcast based on my new book, Web of Betrayal, wherever you get your podcasts. I have to say, guys, I find it weird that you give each other Christmas presents. I'm sorry. I know, and all of you it's weird. You don't do that with your work colleagues.
You're just saying that because you
got a hat.
You're saying that because you didn't get anybody anything, and because you didn't receive a Michael Kors
I didn't
hat.
receive, actually. I did get, but I didn't receive, and I did a kind of corporate-y thing. I didn't, like a hat. What did you get? From your work colleagues? A jumper? That's weird.
Not for me now.
No,
people are going to think, I didn't buy a jumper. And can I say, we didn't all buy each other presents.
Did you not?
Some gave and some.
So do you have, like, when you go out and you do your list, do you have your work colleagues on it?
No. So, like, Brian, who's like, people aren't think we're weird now. Like, Brian is the editor. He's bought like a few people things, and then kind. He's very kind, yeah. And he bought a couple of us stuff.
Did you buy him anything?
I did. I bought him.
Him?
I bought Niall
Where'd
socks.
you buy him? Socks?
Yeah. Well, in my defence, right? So Niall can I say that you don't drink and doesn't eat chocolate or anything
You
like
said
that?
it now.
I said it now.
I so didn't know you bought him socks.
And then I actually said to one of my friends, so she'd bought stuff for her boss, and I was like, can I buy him like a jumper for running or something? And she was like, you shouldn't really be buying a man who's not your partner or your family clothes.
Or socks.
And then I was like, but no, socks. She said socks. She approves socks. No. So now you're making it weird. She approves socks because she was like, happy socks are a good thing.
Or if you're his mother, you could buy him socks and underpants.
No, I did not. Socks are very different to underpants now, Nicola. No, but in fairness, like, what else do you buy someone who doesn't drink and doesn't eat chocolate or anything like that? No. So I bought, but happy socks are nice socks, by the way. It's not like penny socks.
Did you even bring them home? Because he's very bad if you get him anything. Oh, you have them on? Yeah. Oh, Jesus, you have them on?
Yes, them on. No, because I got them.
That was too much effort there now.
I got them from last year, and he loved them. And the whole joke behind it was
pulled a muscle.
Pulled a muscle there. That was too much.
Oh God, no. So do you know?
Really your fault, Eimear.
Not yet. I'm not buying anybody next year. Nicola made me feel weird about it. But you know, the joke behind it was, so last year I bought happy socks, and I was like, because everyone thinks Niall is like, they don't know the real Niall, and they come in like, he'll bring it down off your positivity buzz very quickly. So I was like, right now, when you come on, we sit beside each other. So that's why I bought him some, because we see each other every day for 5 days a week.
What did you buy for Eimear?
Now this is the truth, right?
No, I don't believe him.
No, I bet you bought her nothing.
No, I've bought her a pair of socks, right?
No, stop.
No, I tell you what it says in them. Something like,
I wouldn't know what it says on them because I never
got them.
Yeah, because I forgot to bring them in today, right? And now I feel too weird about bringing.
No, it is just
don't
weird.
Bring them in.
Yeah, it is. It is
now,
weird.
But
also,
you're letting a Nicola.
It's after
I actually
Christmas
got
now.
an email.
So there's
I got it from a listener saying, "What did you buy Nicola for Christmas?"
What did you buy me for Christmas?
Fuck all.
I'm glad, but she's after making us all sound really strange. So I'm glad you didn't buy her anything. She doesn't want anything.
No, because
in fairness, would you not react strange if he bought you something? So
well, if anyone bought me socks, I would.
If I bought you, like,
I think socks are a really nice gift, like nice socks. Nobody goes and buys happy socks. Are like
what if I bought you,
nobody buys them themselves.
BF, best friends forever socks, Nicola? How would you feel?
No, I just feel weird. I'm just glad I'm not involved in your weird little.
So we're okay.
See, I didn't want Niall to buy me anything because it's not Niall's thing, and I didn't want him to feel like he has to.
He claims he's bought you something.
Yeah, but I didn't.
To give it to you.
Do you want?
And Eimear, I would say to you, a bit of advice at this point of the game. We're well into January, or certainly a few days into January. Tell him to stick them up as.
No. But I don't want. I
still want them.
Bring
them in tomorrow.
No, I actually felt. No, don't bring them in tomorrow. I felt
want them.
When he told me, because I went to give it to him and no one else was there. By the way, thanks for telling the whole world. And when I said that to him, he said, "I swear I bought you socks." And I said, "No, it's not your thing to buy presents. I'm not. That's not why I'm buying you something." I was like, "I love buying presents." And I was like, "Please don't give me something." And but now I actually think it's funny because I don't. I don't actually think it is.
I'm gonna get it. I'll get Katie to send a picture of them in now to prove that they're there.
Yeah, but I actually genuinely, I think a lot of your listeners probably buy gifts for colleagues or for.
I don't.
I do think. I think.
Could you all let us know?
Let us know. Yeah,
whether you're with me.
I think socks is a good gift.
Yeah. I got no socks, I can tell you. I got very few gifts, actually. Maybe that's because my attitude.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that's how you react. So I'd be like, I'll be buying you.
It's my own fault.
Buy your alcohol and keep her on
keep
that.
her kind of lucid.
Yeah.
For
But
the
what did you
Christmas.
buy now? Because you did buy him something.
Nothing. No, I didn't.
Did you not
I dream of buying him
Did you
something.
not, did you not get chocolates or something? Okay.
Oh, did I?
You did.
Oh, well, like that was.
She obviously didn't
sorry.
pay for it.
No, that was a crime world thing. That was
crime
different.
world.
It's not from me
We're
personally.
not.
No, but it's from the crime world, though.
Yeah, but
yeah.
that's.
But are you not? Okay.
No, me and
Yeah.
Nicola are not going to be
No, we're not. We're
exchanging
really
best
uncomfortable.
friends forever gifts.
No.
Christmas.
That's us. So anyway, we're all back in
Yeah.
the seats
We're all
here.
full of Christmas spirit.
Full of Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
No, we're back. And you guys haven't been too far away anyway, because of course the news doesn't give up for anyone and doesn't take Christmas holidays or New Year's or off and all the rest of it. So there's been plenty going on. I've been watching the stuff and thinking, God, if we're in now, we'd be in and out of the studio like blue arse flies.
Yeah.
Christmas is always busy, isn't it? And it's kind of like they say traditionally that it can be quite a violent time of the year for people in certain homes. There's drink, there's emotions, there's that whole idea of it being the end of one year and the beginning of another. And, in plenty of houses across the country, there's a lot of happiness, but in other houses and there's been a lot of tragedy.
A lot of tragedy. I mean, it was just this constant, as we worked up until the day before Christmas Eve, and we're back in then on the 27th. And there was just these constant road deaths for a start. And
Yeah.
people being killed. So
Well, the first one, of course, the 21st of December, Margarita O'Rourke, Niall Sheridan, young mum, just having had a baby a couple of weeks previous. And she was killed down in Rathkeil. Now, there is a man before the courts in relation to that.
Yeah, there's a Daniel O'Donoghue who's before the courts. He's charged with dangerous driving and then a few other offences in relation to that. I think there's a criminal damage charge as well. Basically, she died after a van collided with gates at a property in Rathkeil. As you said, she's only 21. She was a new mother. And her funeral was actually last Sunday. There was there was like 1,000 people at it. A lot of devastation, very evident at it as well. She actually had only got married in the same church a year ago, where she was buried, or where her funeral
Was she living in Rathkeil?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she
Full
was
time?
living in Rathkeil, and that was where the incident happened.
Yeah.
So she's very well known in the area. There was like a horse-drawn carriage cortege, and there was a lot of people turned out for it. So so there is a man before the courts, but it's obviously
These things are so stark around Christmas time, aren't they? When
They
somebody
are.
loses somebody, and like, not that it's, I'm sure, any time of the year, but yeah, they just seem to really hit
They
home.
do, and I suppose like as well before Christmas we would have been able to say a lot more because there's now someone
Yes.
before the courts. So there was a lot of outpouring of anger and upset, and it was the days coming up to Christmas when everybody is in that sort of like Christmas spirit and looking forward to spend time with family with most people. So then you're kind of comparing what that would be like if this happened. So it was an awful thing really for her family.
Shocking. And then, of course, there was a couple in Blanchardstown where they were struck crossing a road.
Yeah.
Like in the early evening.
Yeah, that was
Stevens's Day, was it?
Stevens's Day, yeah. So that was actually one of because we came back in the next morning and there was a lot of media around that because what seemed to have happened was it was Anthony Hogg and his wife Georgina. They were crossing the road at Blanchardstown Shopping Centre. I think it was around 5 o'clock on Stephen's Day, and they were struck by a vehicle. She was pronounced dead at the scene. And then Anthony died later in hospital. And then there was a man arrested, but it was a couple of days before he was charged. He was in hospital with underarm guard with some injuries as well. So, that was just obviously, as you said, just given the time of year, they had
Also,
young children
they
as
had the
well.
young children there
With them.
present. So, I mean, it's really, really, brutal for everybody involved.
Yeah, and like he was charged, so he did eventually appear in court a couple of days later, and his name is John Halpin. He's a 43-year-old man, and he was charged with 2 counts of dangerous driving and then failing to provide assistance at the scene as well. So there was a vigil held for that couple. I think it's just as well a couple, as Niall said, young children, Christmas, all of those factors just make it it's horrible at any time of the year.
Mum
but it really
and
makes
dad
it,
wiped out like in a second.
Yeah, and there was a lot of tributes from family members online, and then there was vigils, and then there's a GoFundMe page. I think it's raised like over 40 grand to support the children and all.
We were talking before Christmas about, I suppose the roundup of last year, and of course the story of the Blanchardstown Steakhouse was such a big one all year. People before the courts, and some of the cases have already been concluded. But it's the idea of those days that, are supposed to be family days, and you're supposed to remember where you were. You would remember where you are on Christmas Eve, Stephen's Day, that kind of thing. and that been marked forevermore.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, yet again, we spoke about the Blanchardstown Steakhouse and all the other people that were there that were not maybe directly affected by it, but who have been left terrified by
Of
what
course.
happened.
Yeah.
And no doubt I'm sure there was witnesses to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ripple effect will go on.
Yeah.
But for children to be orphaned at that time of year
Yeah.
or at any time in such a manner where you know, where they're simply spending a Christmas evening walking along the street, you know, was particularly grim.
Now, to Wexford next, or are we going to Athlone instead, to Mariana Pap, a woman in her late 50s,
Yes.
originally from Croatia.
Yes. Yeah.
And she goes missing and her body has been found
Yeah.
in Roscommon in a bog, a very unusual case.
Yeah, really unusual case. So Mariana went missing. It was last seen the early hours of Saturday morning,
Which was,
so that was the 20. That was the 28th, wasn't it?
But that was the 28th. So that was the couple of days after the Hogg couple.
Yeah. Now we were working on Saturday, and it wasn't really. I think it was Sunday that really became ramped up the missing person reports, and there was basically 60 hours where she was missing. But I think they always, you know, Ken Foy's been reporting on this, and they kind of think there was always grave concerns for her, according to sources. So there was a lot of.
So who is she? Who is this woman?
So she's basically a woman in her late 50s. She's originally from Croatia. She has been living in like Athlone, the Westmeath area for a good few years. She's working locally there, so she's well known.
Is she kids or?
She's 2 grown-up children, yeah. So we did a story this morning. There was so many. They haven't yet announced her funeral details on RIP, but it's up. Her pictures up there, and there's like tribute after tribute about what a good mother she was. She was a good friend. She was very well known in the community. So she seems to have disappeared in the early hours of the Saturday. Obviously, there was a massive manhunt going on for her and became more prominent on Sunday. And then on Monday afternoon, they found her body on bogland just close to the Westmeath border in Roscommon.
Right.
And now it's kind of since emerged that they obviously don't believe she died there, that she may have died at a house.
And her body may have been dumped there.
Yeah, and there's a murder investigation been launched. So, you know, obviously, because we have had that recently where there has been a few bodies found and then it's later emerged that it wasn't foul play, but this is very clearly a murder investigation.
Yeah.
And there's been Garda appeals in relation to a silver Peugeot, I think it was a 08, a Peugeot 207. And they're particularly looking for people that may have seen it on Saturday between the hours of 11 to midday on Saturday. So they put out CCTV of that. So they believe that maybe her body was perhaps brought to the bogland in a car, or maybe that car. And, you know, they haven't made any arrests in this case yet, but according to Ken Foy, they have a very significant person of interest that they're looking at. So
unbelievable.
Yeah.
In Wexford, a 58-year-old man, John O'Connor, is discovered dead on New Year's Eve.
Yes.
At his home in Clunwara? At
his home in New Ross. So there's been 2 arrests in that case. There was two men, I think, in the 30s have been arrested. One has since been released, and I don't think he's a part of the inquiries anymore, but there's another man still in Garda custody in the east of the country being questioned over that one. So
was he how was he killed, or is the
that hasn't been announced as a murder investigation.
Okay.
It's a fatal it's a discovery of a body, and I think there is suspicion.
They can upgrade them sometimes.
They can upgrade them, yeah. So he's found dead in his house. I don't think
Well, they've said they aren't releasing some of the details for operational reasons.
Yeah.
So I mean, they clearly is it believed to have been a murder though.
Yeah.
And that, you know, they obviously have a suspect that's clearly there. But they haven't released all of the details yet. So that can sometimes happen where the guards, you know, retain some information for investigating.
While they're questioning people, etc.
Post-mortem as well, I suppose.
So I was in Ukraine the week before sort of that Christmas week started, and I know you guys were doing stuff. So did I miss the Kieren Duran? I was going to ask you, do you mind going back over that? I know
I mean, I think it's you know, Kieren Duran has been missing for 2 years effectively. People will know the story well. He was in, certainly social services were aware of his case, and then he's gone missing. Now, obviously, a man was arrested in connection with that investigation.
Yeah.
And shortly after he was arrested, he was released again. A file was being prepared for the DPP, and during that time, he took his own life.
That was just shortly before Christmas.
Shortly before Christmas. Subsequently, you know, that I think the guards have really struggled to find out exactly what is happening. They've been open and explicit about that due to the passage of time. But he was very much a person of interest in the investigation. He was known to a woman that was also arrested as part of that probe. And obviously, you know,
So the Gardaí seem to be trying to home in on when they believe the child was killed, and they're down to June of 2022.
Yeah, well, I think the most recent, this was going, obviously that happened in early December, Anthony Maguire's death. And then
Did it early December?
It was early December, wasn't it? Well, it was around,
You're probably right,
maybe
sorry.
mid-December. I think it was.
You know the way the days go.
Yeah, so that's like
the 16th or the
16th, so
17th.
mid-December.
Yeah.
And then it did continue. There was more stories on Kieren right up until Christmas break. And I think one of the last ones was that they released new photographs of him, didn't they? And they kind of said that they believed that maybe he may have been alive because it's traced back to May 2022. He was last seen in school, but they don't necessarily believe that he died in May.
Okay.
And I think they're trying to maybe take away that narrative that people can
Or get stuck
jog
on
their
that.
memories a bit
Yes,
more.
yeah.
And there's photographs of him a little bit later on.
I think it's only June though. It's only a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, what Anthony Maguire was suspected of by the guards, because there was he was suspected of bringing a decoy child to meetings with
Social services.
Effective
In the UK or here?
I don't look. I think there was a couple of occasions when he's meant to have brought this decoy child. Another occasion when Kieren Duran was registered as staying at a B&B, and a decoy child was meant to have been brought. And
was that B&B in Drogheda?
That B&B was in County Louth anyway, wasn't it?
Right.
So what you're seeing is he was questioned very specifically, we believe, about that decoy child, because obviously if you're bringing a decoy child, you know, there's something is wrong.
And you're part of some conspiracy.
To some extent, whether it doesn't prove you're part of a murder, but it proves you're certainly part of a conspiracy.
And if it is a murder, because they're investigating that, it has to be part of a cover-up.
Exactly. So you have to be a part of something. So that is put to him directly. Now, Anthony Maguire was from Drogheda. In fact, he lived not too far away from where Keane Mulready Woods. I mean, within a few hundred meters of where Keane Mulready Woods is from.
Right.
Very much embedded in that community. Obviously, when he was arrested, everybody in that community knows, you know, what he's been linked to, and clearly we don't know what went through his mind. We do believe there was a note left at the scene when he took his own life, but that doesn't seem to have gone into the specifics of Kieren Duran and what happened to Kieren Duran. So we're seeing that obviously some sort of guilt or some sort of shame has played a factor in his death.
Or perhaps external pressure as well, because, you know, he was obviously, as you said, known to have, that he had been arrested, and, you know, like, so there was talk that maybe there was, pressure from, not pressure, but, you know, there was obviously, he had developed some kind of notoriety in terms of the case, even though he hadn't been identified, people in the area would have known who he was. And it was reports at the time as well that he didn't actually give up anything of significance in relation to Kieren to Gardaí during investigation, but I suppose he still very much was part of that investigation.
Now, they're talking about further arrests expected in the new year, which we're now into in this case, but the underlying massive problem the Gardaí have, while they're convinced, obviously, that they've launched a murder inquiry, they don't have this child's body.
They don't have the body.
You're looking for a needle in a haystack unless you get intelligence in relation to that.
And it's a 2-year timeline. And that's obviously what they're trying to do with those photos, trying to narrow it down more. And they how are they going to do that? And there's various different theories, and it's also been said before that, you know, lies were told to them as well. So they're obviously trying to find out what specific information
they believe
they
there was a successful 2-year cover-up after this child was violently killed.
Yeah.
And presumably he's buried or hidden somewhere.
Well, I mean, they've obviously dug looking for a body, but I don't think that the information about, they don't have any specific intelligence to indicate where the child's body is.
No. I mean, look, in the past, when you've seen situations where, you know, somebody's been missing for a long time and they've obviously been dead quite some significant period of time, you nearly need somebody with a conscience to bring them to the exact location.
Because I think what you're going to see now is there will be, and we see this in many other investigations, where the guards will then go back through statements they've been given by people they'll look for inconsistencies, try and then investigate those inconsistencies. But that's still a long way from finding a body. And obviously, one of the people who clearly knew something, Anthony Maguire, is now dead and can never be questioned. And if he is accused of something, he certainly isn't in a position to defend himself either.
Yeah. It's a very dark story, and I think we're really only, scratching the surface of it. That's a really dark secret for people to have held for 2 years and to...
Yeah, no, it is. I suppose we don't know how much people knew as well. When they were, maybe if they weren't giving information that they knew, we don't know what the motive for that was. If they were fully aware that Kieren, hadn't been seen in 2 years, we don't really know. But yeah, it is a very dark secret, and of course, there's going to have to be a lot of people out there, as sources said. People have been telling lies in this case, and people are going to have guilty consciences. And I guess in terms of the murder, to bring a murder charge without a body, as we've always said before, is very difficult.
Very difficult.
But I guess you would be hoping in relation to maybe, is there going to be other charges, in terms of withholding information?
But are they enough? And I have to say, I think there's a lot of pressure on Gardaí when they're investigating murders to, they might have identified a suspect, realise they're dangerous, they can do it again. I mean, the pressure of that, I don't know whether I'd be able to be rolling around the bed at night with that. No. But in this case, to be trying to find the body of a child like that, I mean, a child should not go missing, disappear into the ether. Oh. And it's incredibly I would personally find that to be horrendous, the pressure of that case.
If you don't have, this is another witness gone now, Anthony.
You're sort of appealing to human beings, to their nature, to people with some sort of a moral compass to come forward.
And even if you look at mobile phone, data, a lot of that is not retained by law. It's not retained after a year. So there's all sorts of complications in this case. And in fairness to the guards, they really seem to have invested the resources and the effort, because it is not a normal situation. No. A child can fall off, and it's not something that is acceptable. But if you're left with, I presume this is only my presumption, that they're going through every statement that they've got off everybody and looking for inconsistencies. But again, that's a long way off a murder arrest. And of course, the arrests that they hope to make and no doubt will make, but they can't keep arresting people. So they do have to have evidence to put to the person if they're arrested. Yeah. And,
Yeah, I think they're struggling with the timeline as well in relation to, he was last seen in May, but there's just, there's various different locations that he has been linked to. So there obviously wasn't a clear, it's not like Eimear Rabbitte has lived in this address for her whole life. There's... That's obviously trying to work out there where he may have last been living, and they have search houses.
There's a transient existence kind of going on, and people on the move, and
then school. But
you're on the back foot. You're 2 years on the back foot. You're trying to jog people's memories back to a long time ago.
Exactly. And he was moving around houses, and then the school they were told that he wasn't coming back there. So there's a lot of sort of unclear timelines that the Gardaí are trying to work around as well. And then was there a difference with other countries involved? All of this kind of thing. So it is a confusing one.
And Eimear, one other awful story that you wanted to talk about, which I did see headlines around, and it's just horrendous, is the 90-year-old woman who was sexually assaulted.
Yeah, this is a really, really grim story. Obviously, there'll be no names in this one for obvious reasons, but basically there's a woman in her 90s and a man has been arrested on suspicion of sexual assault in a hospital in the north of the country. So we're not going to say the hospital or the county even, but it is a sexual assault allegation, and basically what is alleged to have happened is that, a male patient at the hospital allegedly got into her bed in the middle of the night and had to actually be removed from the bed by another patient. This alleged victim has Alzheimer's and is in her 90s, obviously a very vulnerable woman. So, there's this suspect was arrested, but there's obviously allegedly it's a complex investigation, and it's alleged that he claimed that he thought it was somebody known to him, and he was confused about whose bed it was. There's a lot of kind of complex elements to the story, but obviously at the end of the day, it's a very elderly, vulnerable woman, and it's a really sad story.
So there's been plenty of dark stories been knocking around. Any sort of lighter notes, anything happening that is sort of
Well, I mean,
chaotic criminally?
No, but I do think that you could look at the number of convictions, which is our meat and veg, if you want. The convictions achieved in the gangland sphere.
Yeah.
The lack of murders is stark.
Yes.
I mean, you're going through a whole year with effectively no gangland hits.
I saw an interview with Seamus Boland of the Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau, and he was suggesting that, the criminal fraternity see that murder's bad for business. I agree some of them do, but then you have this chaos that blows up
you see
within feuding. And I think those younger kind of... We had one murder we spoke about last year, was that Josh Selly?
Yeah, but even that's not a fully clear that it was a murder.
No,
it may have been
indeed.
Obviously died of gunshot, but it may have been a weapon that was fired accidentally. So I think you're seeing great successes from the Gardaí, and you're also seeing some of the cases we can't go into, but even up until recently, there was a very, interceptions of people attempting to carry out murders. You see I think the intelligence level that they've achieved, I think, is at a very high state. The encrypted phone networks, I think, as well have acted as a significant deterrent to some of the criminal gangs. Yeah. The amount of seizures of cocaine and cash are at record levels as well.
I don't think they act as a deterrent. I think the sort of the takedown of the encrypted, I think that they, they maybe realise for a short while that the phones, be careful on the texts and all this, and then everybody falls back to it, don't they?
Well, I think they take on...
And the longer the time goes, they don't get sort of lifted or arrested in relation to any of it. They think, oh, well, what,
They manage to take out a level of organizer within criminal gangs through some of the encrypted stuff and some of the investigations into the Kieren cartel that have genuinely disrupted their ability. But you will, of course, you see, I do think we have, wasn't it in the Caught in the Crossfire, where we have Michael McDowell saying this shooting was the last sting of a dying wasp, I think it was.
Yeah.
And of course, that's not proven to be true. Criminality will not be eliminated solely by police work, but you have to say that 2024 has been a good year for the fight against organised crime.
They had a really good one, actually, the guards that you missed, and it's actually funny, I ended up on the podcast with Niall and he told me openly that I was his third choice because two other people he asked to come on were not.
What happened?
Free. So Charles McLean, this was obviously one of the Garda's successes that we were talking about. They his cell was searched, but basically they stopped a hit team.
Oh yes,
in a car, and they found a pistol, and then Charles McLean, who was implicated in 3 gangland murders, his cell was searched, and it was a big story that week. I think that was the week before Christmas, wasn't it? But obviously that was a big victory for the guards, and there was I think.
You see, I think we tend to sometimes try and project the way we would behave onto some of these criminals, and they just don't behave the way the rest of us do. They don't.
No.
They get locked up, they continue their criminality. They don't learn lessons, or they don't feel afraid because of Garda crackdowns and all this sort of stuff.
No.
They carry on regardless. They are not the same as us in ordered society.
No.
Now, we do need that sort of... you do need some positivity coming back, especially from law enforcement. And I mean, law enforcement is there to protect us as a community. And we do need to know about their successes and all the rest of it. But you are dealing with a completely different sort of, psychological animal when you're dealing with organised criminals. They will never, very rarely rehabilitate, stop, or be able to walk past an opportunity.
Well, they say they do.
It goes in cycles anyway, but there are some people at managerial level, and I think Seamus Bowman spoke in that interview about the family, and they have made a deliberate and conscious decision not to get sucked into, I suppose, mindless murders and that endless cycle. So, but yeah, of course, there's young lads
But you'd like to think that they were purely business-like creatures that would, and would go, let's not kill anybody because... But there is this sort of, I think they do sometimes think that, but then somebody will just slight them, and it'll blow up.
But
there's always a sort of explosion of violence.
Because they have to react, you see. This is the other thing, that you can't let these things go, and you can't let deaths go, because if you don't hunt down every death with the threat of violence, why would anybody pay up? So
it's
which is something you and I want to talk about, and we just discussed this as an aside. We want to discuss the collection of drug deaths and families and people out there in the communities who have been threatened and have paid up. We want to hear your stories. You can contact us anonymously, or hopefully have a bit of trust in us that we will hear your story and repeat it in a way that we won't identify you in any way. But we do want to start delving into this. Both of us have heard very serious and complex problems that people have when their kids rack up drug deaths, and we want to sort of highlight it.
Yeah, I mean, I was on to a family that I don't know, but I know through somebody, but let's put it that way. And they spoke to me. These are ordinary working people, people that have a home and that are coming towards retirement age. And they've told me that they've paid over 100,000 euros for a drug debt racked up by their son after threats, attacks on property, and my heart goes out to these
people. I know, and they fear for their child's life. I mean, their child might be a grown adult who's made really bad, poor decisions and continues to do so.
100%.
But are you going to turn your back when they're being threatened with being murdered? Like, it's a horrific position to find yourself in, and anybody can.
And I actually asked a few people over the last month, and I've had so many of these stories. I mean, these are people that are, that are tradespeople and ordinary people handing over 60, 70 grand, remortgaging homes. I mean, shocking stuff.
And we do want to collect these stories, and we want to discuss them, and we want to sort of open a bit of a debate on them. And then we're going to try and see what we can do about bringing on somebody with more expertise than you and I, who will give advice to people maybe.
Because you're in that position, and these people spoke to me and they're saying, well, what are we meant to do? Like, see if our son, take a chance our son will be murdered, or are you going to get 60 grand together?
Yeah.
I mean, what choice would you make? So we are trying to, I mean, we're looking for people to send in stories.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back to it again, maybe, and bring this up again. But I'll let Nicola read out the email address.
Oh, don't.
You're under pressure now.
Well, it's one of them is crimeworldpod@gmail.com.
It's actually pathetic.
And the other one is in a crime world at Sunday World.
This should be your New Year's resolution now.
It is my New Year's resolution. I should remember that. I mean, you've got so much information in your brain, then you can't remember the simple things. But you can also obviously contact us. We're both, I have certainly DMs open there and all social media forums, and
So the idea would be that it's not that we'll read them very carefully, and we'll extract any information
very carefully, and we'll share stories maybe.
Yes,
of these, with people who, and then maybe people out there can hear something that maybe connects with them, or I don't know. Look, don't know what try and highlight it a bit.
Yeah, and try and give people some advice on what you can do,
who you can go to, and
what you should do. And nobody can tell you exactly what you should do, but and we don't know all the answers.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, I think, and I've been contacted so many times as well, and I don't have a skill set to advise properly. I can give what I think, or from what I've heard from more professionals, but you don't really, I mean, you don't want to give, you're not in a position, you're not trained to give people advice, but we are trained, at least as journalists, to collect stories, to tell them in a way that hopefully will be of help, and then to try and bring in somebody who's...
Yeah, so we're going to try and come back to it over the next couple of weeks. We'll highlight it again, and anything that people say we'll absolutely 100% protect, because we certainly don't, just the last...
No, we understand the kind of positions and the fear that these people have people living under. So, So, are we for the moment?
Happy New Year and all that.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Don't buy Nicola socks.
Don't buy me socks.
Yeah.
Me and Nicola know we're not going to be.
Now there's a few items.
We're comfortable.
There's actually a few items that I received that I just wondered, how do people see me?
It's like, go on, give us one of them.
No. I'm not calling out any of my relatives or friends. But,
did you cook? I'd say do you cook Christmas dinner?
Oh, I did. It was Yeah, it's horrific. I think it's the most horrific dinner of the year. And I actually got a deli to make my ham and my turkey and purchased it cooked. Well, I didn't cook that. But I realised this year that actually it's all the other stuff that's really difficult.
Yeah.
And I had a bit of a help, but it's
not your thing.
I'm not the better of it.
No.
But the hotel thing, I say that every year. Go to a hotel and have somebody. Yeah, you see, he's sensible like that.
And does it feel like, because obviously there's other people you don't know there, does it still feel like Christmas?
Oh yeah, I'm over all the traditional stuff. I've done with it. I just think a hotel.
I went up to my family after, so it was great.
Yeah.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's definitely. So yeah, it was. And I'm over it for another year, definitely.
Yeah.
But I wasn't out that much over Christmas, to be honest with you. See, I was in Ukraine before we kind of came back, and I was bang into the Christmas thing. I missed the Christmas party. I missed all of that.
You missed the wild Christmas party in the kitchen.
She took a week off and went to
Ukraine. I took a week off and went to Ukraine. No, I went with a friend of mine, Lynn Kelleher, a journalist who you both know, and she's doing a little bit of PR for a charity. So I sort of volunteered to be her camera woman and to sort of help her out while she was collecting some information and doing some work for them. So, but it was interesting. Yeah. You know, life goes on in war zones. We weren't obviously deep into the front line or anything, far from it. We were just over the Slovakian border. Interesting to see how life is continuing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fears around conscription. There's a lot of people not out, afraid to be out. People we speak to afraid for their sons, you know. Teenagers now, like, 18, 20-year-olds and all the rest of that. They need them now. Everyone's war weary. But it continues, and there's restaurants opened, and there's, you can buy a coffee in a paper cup, and you can do things like we do. It's hard to believe sometimes you're actually, there's bombs raining down.
Yeah. It's the length of time's gone in, I suppose.
Yeah.
Some sense.
3 years nearly.
Yeah.
And like it was interesting to see some of the donations. So the charity Lynn is working with have facilitated the logistics of some stuff. And we were in this rehab centre where soldiers were coming back, maybe with amputations and learning to walk again. And it's the gym equipment from Westwood that they, their old gym equipment they donated. Okay. And here it is actually in front of your eyes being used for that kind of stuff. And yeah, so it was interesting.
Yes, interesting.
And it wasn't as cold as I expected, which was good. Went to Budapest on the way back, which was lovely.
Oh, it's lovely, Budapest.
Beautiful. Especially best hotel I've ever stayed in my life, and I'm going back to it. But
did you go to the thermals baths?
Didn't have time now. Yeah. Just went to did a little bit of R&R there. But yeah, that was my Christmas. I don't know how I got roped into that for my pre-Christmas relaxing hollypops.
Well, I'd say it puts things into life into perspective. I won't hold Niall not buying me socks against him now.
No, indeed. Right, so we're back in the saddle. Thanks a million, guys.
Thanks,
and we'll be back on later in the week.
Thank you, Nicola.
Thanks.
I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.